Hey, Jenny,
Hi.
welcome to the podcast.
Thank
Founders
you.
and Builders Rollercoaster Journeys, episode 6 with Jenny Rozelle.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're good. We're good. Oh, yeah, you know that there's somebody in the background, don't you?
I I connect those dots like that.
Awesome. Well, Jenny, thanks for taking the time to join us on the podcast. And on top of that, you're the first woman to be on the podcast. So it's got to be good. It's going to be
Yes.
good. Fantastic. Great. So, Jenny, we're going to break the ice, and I'd like to know, what are you drinking?
Water. But I got a special cup for you, and it's a cup that says, "Will give legal advice for wine." So I put my
Perfect.
water in a special cup.
Fine. Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean that's forgivable because you've got the right recipient. Perfect. So, Jenny, we want to know all about you, what you do, where you're from, etc. So we're gonna start off with background, childhood dreams, career paths, how and where, brief journey to where you are today.
Yeah, so um I am one of those weird kids that when I was in second grade was when I first said that I wanted to be an attorney. So I'm one of those weirdos that must have identified something about myself, or I must have just been stubborn enough that I just didn't want to be wrong, so I just stuck with it. But yeah, second grade, I said I wanted to be an attorney, and I've always been the kind of person that has always been a head down, education and work first kind of human being. And that played well during my education and my, beginning of my career path. I was a good student. I was a good kid. I was a good daughter. I always describe myself as I was the prude of the, I have one sister, and my sister was the one that was always the one, testing my parents' patience. And I was the one that constantly was the good kid. So then, fast forward time, I got out of college, and I was smart enough at that point in my life to realize that going on to law school was as much of a financial endeavor as it was an educational endeavor. And so I started working in the legal industry at that point. And fast forward to today, I never got out of the industry. I ended up going to law school, passed the bar exam, and ultimately now an attorney and own my own law firm in the state of Indiana.
Fantastic. All right. In the series of breaking the ice, leisure activities, any hobbies, leisure activity that allow you to find yourself or recalibrate, including looking after Charlotte and Rosie.
I was going to say I should have you answer that for me. Well, as some people may not know, you were trying to coax me into doing this podcast outside with my cows. I was actually going to surprise you and start out there, but I live in the country. I live in a pretty rural area, which kind of gets to the question that I don't have the best Wi-Fi sometimes. If I get too far away from my signal, it gets a little spotty. So I was going to surprise you, but then I got worried that it wouldn't stretch that far. But I think part of this question, what immediately pops into my brain is, I spend all of my day, most of my day talking, whether it's doing things like this, or whether it's talking to clients or talking to employees. My entire day is filled with me just, you know, blabbing all day. And what I really recalibrate is when I come home. And home to me is I don't have neighbors. I don't have, the small talk that comes with, if you're taking a walk and seeing your neighbor and asking how the kids are doing. I don't have to do any of that, which is exactly what I want. I need and want quiet time. And so I really find my opportunity to recalibrate when I get home, and just chill out a little bit. And part of that home, as you hinted at, is I live on a small little cattle farm, which always surprises people when they find out that I live on a farm, because most when they see me, they're like, "You don't really look like you live on a farm." My nails done, I get my hair done. I mean, I'm just a very stereotypical kind of woman, I guess, and so I surprise a lot of people when I tell them I live on a farm. Yeah, so that's really where I have my opportunity to really re-energize myself and maintain being my best self, is being at home.
So do you find yourself going out on long walks on the farm or just looking after I guess, like, looking after the cattle, I guess?
Yeah, so we have our property is kind of, if you imagine a rectangle, and
Hmm.
at the far end of the rectangle, we have a pond out back. And so um I take walks out there all the time. I have we have two dogs that are basset hounds. They're the ones with the real long floppy ears. Take them on the walk, walks all the time to the pond. And so between that and believe it or not, people think that having cattle is more work than it actually is. It's not really a ton of work. And so they do give us an opportunity to kind of slow down and get outside and yeah.
Okay. And then obviously that leads us to family life. What does it look like?
So just my husband and I, we don't have any kids. So our kids are our dogs and our cows. And like you hinted at a second ago, I have very officially named every single one of my cows. They all have names, they all have personalities. Actually, there's one that we moved to the front pasture. I think I may have told you this offline, but
Yeah.
that she should be having a calf really, really soon. So before my husband left for work this morning, he was like, just keep an eye out there for Rosie. If she starts, doing anything, let me know. So exciting times over here.
So I guess also the thing is something that's quite unique is you work with your husband.
Yeah.
He's a partner in the firm.
Yeah. Yeah. So my husband and I met in law school. Um, and his silly, I want to say dumb joke is that he always tells people he went to law school to meet a lawyer, not to become a lawyer. And there I was, falling into his silly little trap. Not really, but yeah. So my husband and I met in law school. Shortly after we got married, and then shortly after that is when we actually purchased our current law firm from the individual that founded it. And so we have the interesting dynamic of working together and owning a business together. Um,
Mhm.
what I always tell people though is it works really well because I rarely see him during the day. We're both doing our own things and seeing our own clients, and a lot of times I don't really see him until we get home. So
Okay. Right. And so the law firm, what does that look like? From what I understand from our observations on X, you're moving around quite a lot. So do you have more than one office? How big is the team? Are
mhm.
you only in Indiana or are you in different states?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So yes, all of our offices are in the state of Indiana. They're kind of spread. We have three total offices that are kind of spread out around the state. And
Mhm.
our long-term goal, our long-term strategy is actually to open additional office locations in areas that just really don't have attorneys and especially estate and elder law attorneys in their areas.
Absolutely.
And so our long term, actually, I should say short and long term, because we're eyeing a location for our fourth office very like actively. Um,
Okay.
so it's just in the state of Indiana. We have three offices. It's just my husband and I that own the practice. We do have additional attorneys though. We actually just hired our fifth one. I just got her offer letter this morning. So five total attorneys, and then the whole team between attorneys and paralegals and support team is either at 20 or we may have just crossed over 20. So pretty good
Awesome.
sized team. Yeah.
And you're the one who's cracking the whip around the office, I guess.
I am the mean one. I know I and I think I shouldn't even say I'm the mean one. I have very high expectations, and if someone doesn't meet those expectations, I'm just a very transparent person, and so I can deliver things that even sometimes aren't the most fun things to hear in the world, but I can deliver them in a very respectful way with a smile on my face, and they will take it well. So I am the one that gets to be the bearer of bad news sometimes, but my husband, his name is Justin. Justin is he's super nice and super patient, so he makes me do that stuff.
Good cop, bad cop.
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. So, time to deep dive. Daily routines. What does your typical day look like from when you get up? Do you have a morning routine? Are you an early to rise or morning person, not a morning person? Give us a little breakdown of your general daily routine.
I am the most type A person I know. And I am a very I am like the poster child for routine. And if anything gets off my routine, that's when I get grumpy. Because I feel I am like very, very organized with like every minute, every hour, every moment of my day. Which also has its disadvantages because sometimes things plop on our plate and that it's not ideal for me. But I am an early riser. I get up early. It probably freaks my husband out because I am like just this happy and perky and energetic from literally when my alarm goes off. I'm like this. My husband's like, please just stop. Not really, but so I get up early, I get moving. I literally have the same exact breakfast every morning. I do my same
Wow.
getting ready routine every morning. I go into the office. We have physical office locations. I go into the office. I have my routine in the morning. When I get there, I eat the same exact lunch most days. Um, it's
What?
I know, I know. I think it's because
No, come on.
I know no, it's because in my morning routine, I pack my lunch for, what I'm gonna eat that day, and I just think it's silly use of money to constantly go out to eat for lunch and, fast food, all that stuff adds up, and I like to watch what I eat too, and so I will pack something that's, healthy and doesn't tempt me to go out. So yeah, I have like even the same lunch most days, unless someone is successful in peer pressuring me to go get lunch. But yeah, I'm the poster child
I,
for routine.
we're going to move to Indiana. We need to change this up. You can eat healthy, but come on, eat something
I
different every day. Come
I
on, Jenny.
know, I know.
So
It's
we're
seriously, Christian, a turkey and cheese sandwich and like a small little lunch bag of sun chip. You're cracking me up. You're like, you're crazy, Jenny.
oh no, Jenny. Like we with my wife. So my wife is Dutch, and so we have this constant, conversation about food because she's become a foodie. since
Yeah,
meeting me. So I'm the one who cooks at home. Lunch and dinner, that's my job.
your
In
thing.
exchange, and it's like non-written law, but I get my coffee in bed every morning, no matter what.
Yeah, yeah,
Having said that, I'm the one who gets up early. My wife is not a morning person.
yeah.
So, but we're foodies. So in the Dutch culture, they hardly eat lunch. So
Yeah.
it's what, boterham and cheese. So it's kind of a dry bread, brown bread. Oh my God, it's just like
She's yeah, we're
and,
yeah.
and and cheese, and that's it. I mean, how can you last a day like that? So we have a lot, but now she can't do that anymore. So it has to be a proper cooked lunch, and sometimes I'll cook. So the late thing that she's really enjoying is spare ribs. So that's 2.5 hours in the
Ooh,
coals.
yes,
So
that
yeah,
sounds
and
I
even if
do
we had to do pack lunches, it'll be a different lunch every day.
true, true, true. We are food like, we, like, love dinner, we'll cook, good dinners in the evening. I'm not a crazy person about dinner, and we love going out to dinner. So it's more I think it's just more that I'm such on a routine that it doesn't require my
Yeah,
brain to use any like, I don't have to use my brain at all. In the morning, I just do my normal routine, I get to work. The less I can use my brain to be able to use my brain for what it needs to be used at work, I think that's
yeah.
why I do it. I don't know. I don't know.
So, so funny thing is, we had on Monday Martin Tobias, a
Mhm.
VC, and for him, it's the same clothes every
Yeah.
day. Doesn't have to think about it. It's a black t-shirt every
Yeah.
day. So I
Yep.
guess you're not the clothes every day, but it's gonna be
It
the food.
it
Okay,
also makes
all
grocery
right.
shopping really easy because I just grab the same breakfast and lunch stuff. So, there's a method to my madness. There's a method to my madness.
There is. Got it. Got it. Okay, fantastic. Right. So you practice estate and elder law.
Mhm.
So I know what estate is, and I think most people do without actually taking it seriously. But what is elder law? If you could, tell us the difference and how it works together.
Yeah, so, um, I'm gonna start with estate law just to confirm that people understand things correctly. So, estate law is really planning for incapacity or planning for death. So whether it's, it's the legal documents that support people through those times in our lives. So whether it's power of attorneys, whether it's healthcare documents, whether it's will, last will and testament, whether it's trusts, that's really estate planning. And really just preparing individuals for if we do become incapacitated and when we pass away. Now, elder law is they're very much linked because elder law is helping people navigate specifically benefits, governmental benefits that will help people pay for long term care, like nursing homes, assisted living,
Mhm.
home health care, those sort of things. Those are very costly ventures that sometimes families have to go through. And there are tools in my tool belt that really can, if they're established proactively, they can protect assets against against governmental benefits like Medicaid, for example. Um, Now, if someone fails to plan, which a lot of people fail to plan, what ends up happening is they're kind of in crisis mode, and we can even help them move some assets around to help them qualify for benefits that will help them pay for long-term care. So it's a long-winded way to basically say it's helping people navigate how to pay for long-term care.
Okay, all right. So estate law, what is the proportion of people who actually really take it seriously earlier on in life? What are your recommendations? How does one go about it? When should one go about it and think about it?
Yeah.
Could you maybe just tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So, um, you know, ideally, when people start having kids, they really should start considering doing some estate planning documents, because if something were to happen to the parents, we need to have documents in place to identify who they would want to take the kids if something were to happen to them. In my world, it's called guardianship. So ideally, there's really some things that happen early in life, like having kids, that really would necessitate doing estate planning. But more often than not, a lot of people start considering doing estate planning when they're, say, in their 50s or 60s, when they start kind of seeing light at the end of the tunnel, called retirement, or they're just a little bit further in life where they're like, I probably have less life to live than what I have already lived. And so they start kind of thinking of, oh gosh, I need to have these documents in place. So more often than not, most of my clients are probably 50s and older. Um, and, I've come to the point where, most people know they need to do estate planning. They need to put people in positions to support them, to help them make decisions if they become unable to. Um, but a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people fail to do estate planning. The number that kind of gets thrown around is about 50% of people do not do any sort of estate planning. And so I'm a firm believer is, people will call someone like me when they're ready. And sometimes sometimes there's a trigger there where, maybe they've lost someone close to them, or maybe they've gotten a medical diagnosis, or maybe it's something good. Maybe they're about to, go on a really cool vacation or something, and they're worried about, flying really far or whatever. Um, I just come to the I've just at this point in my career just said, people will call when they're ready. They know it's important, and either they'll call when they're ready, or if they don't call, then someone like me is just going to have to clean it up, and probably have to charge more, when we're playing cleanup after they
Okay.
pass away.
So that was something that I was going to actually say, that it's actually at the end of the day a costly mistake not to plan
Yeah.
ahead of time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of marketing that, how do you go about it at the moment? Or is there a strategy for you to, because you're developing your practice, but at the same time it's essential. Everyone is going to die. That's a guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that in mind, people need to consider planning and planning well and properly. And yes,
Yeah.
it's a cost, but it's a less costly affair than if they don't do it,
Don't.
because at the end of the day, just crossing the road, you get hit
Yeah.
by a bus. How many terrible stories do we hear like that?
Yeah.
But we always think it's going to happen to somebody else.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Um,
So yeah.
so, I think that one, my office we've been around now for, gosh, almost 25 years at this point. And so we have a really solid client base that, refers their family, refers their friends, refers their own kids, refers their own grandkids. So from a marketing perspective, I mean, that definitely helps. That, if we did absolutely no marketing, they could single-handedly, keep us afloat. But beyond that, by far our biggest referral sources are other like synergistic professionals. So, financial advisors, financial planners, accountants, other lawyers that, may not be in the estate or elder law space. Um, that's that's another huge referral source from us, because if you think about it, those other kind of professionals that I named are often really knee deep in someone's, affairs and assets already. And so it's kind of an easy pitch to them to say, hey, you have these assets and you've told me about your kids and your beneficiaries. Do you have your documents in place? And we do a few other a few other marketing strategies. I'm also very surprised. This will not surprise you, but I'm also very surprised how just terrible attorneys are at marketing in general. So I actually just this morning I was looking for an attorney that called our office. I was looking for their website for an attorney that called our office this morning, and they don't even have a website. They have no website. And that's somewhat common in the legal industry that it's I don't know how that makes sense, but we just do things a little differently, and happily
There's
agree.
results.
Yes, yeah, it's really not hard. It's have a website, do some networking, talk to people like they're normal human beings. It bodes well for us.
And put in place a good CRM, because you need
Yeah.
to know who's who, because obviously when you do, well, for you it's like who's you intergenerational for you, so you got to figure out. And God forbid, like there's several John Senior, John Junior, John Junior.
For
It can
sure. We have
it can be
whole
quite.
family trees. Yes, we do.
Okay. So, I mean, for us, we look at it from a marketing perspective as well, because we're trying to always tell people, come on, you need to move into the digital world, etc.
Yeah.
So, my next question is about the operations of your firm. So, how tech enabled are you? Well,
Mm.
I know you guys are pretty tech enabled, but what does it look like in reality?
I think I have found over time that I'm a little bit of a unicorn in the legal industry. I am more open-minded, I think, than a lot
Mhm.
of attorneys and law firm owners that are out there. I think it may have to do with my age, and it may have to do with, I'm a handful of years into ownership, and I'm just willing to embrace technology more than most others in my industry. So we use cloud-based software. We use cloud-based. Our CRM is cloud-based. I remember when I first started at the firm, our database looked like something from the 1990s. And that's how a lot of law firms still operate today. And it's unbelievable to me, but it's very true. We're actually right now just finishing a pretty substantial project where we hired a technology company to basically like dive deep into our systems and our processes to identify where things could get automated. Because my team is now at almost 20 people. I've ran out of physical space. And so even if I
Mhm.
wanted or needed to hire, I don't even know where I'd put them. And so I
Yeah.
started looking internally, like, how can I do things more intelligent, to maybe have to not have to hire another human. So I
Mhm.
embarked on this journey of trying to figure out how much I could get automated. So I mean, those are just like two quick examples of not a lot of law firms are embracing these kind of
Okay.
things, but we very much have.
And then the paperwork, obviously, are you moving all your paperwork into digital and then sending all the documents digitally, getting them signed, well, amended and signed digitally, which also helps, I guess, later on down the line when something does happen. It's like, hang on a minute, here's a
Yeah.
trace of every time there was an amendment made, who by and why.
Yeah, we have a
It would
lot
be.
of things digital, but unfortunately, the legal industry, like when you start thinking of like truly the statutes and the laws and our
Mhm.
courts, are not coming with the times. And so that probably shouldn't surprise anyone at all. But so when you think of like estate planning documents, those are still on paper. Like people have to sign them, like wet signature sign them. And then if something happens, we have to take that physical will that that person signed when they were alive and submit that to the court. Like it's still very outdated in my
Okay.
space that requires kind of those outdated methods. But what we do is we will take all of that stuff that we have signed, you know, in person and immediately get them digitized. We scan them, get them, you know, in PDFs so that we don't have to hold on to, you know, these massive files. When you know, watch a show or watch a movie and they show like a law firm and there's these, you know, huge file rooms.
Yeah.
Those very much still exist in a lot of law firms. We have some filing
Well,
cabinets, but not nearly like you see on TV.
so the wet signature means that the person has to physically sign with a pen,
Yep.
and that is the only thing that would be accepted in the court or in front of the authorities. Or is it possible to say, hey, like, this is my client, I was there when he electronically signed the document, as opposed to, because yeah, there's no room, there's no space, and it's a big burden, and it's costly. That paper,
Yep.
somebody's got to pay it.
Yeah, yep,
So
I'm paying it. Yeah, I'm paying for it. Reams, just reams of paper. There are some states that are just now starting to adopt to signing these documents electronically or digitally. Um,
yeah.
Very few states, one, and two, not a lot of attorneys in those states have started dabbling in it because it makes them really nervous from a place of um, monitoring like whether there's any funny business going on. Like, you know, if you imagine like, you know, mom is trying to sign her will and is the son standing right over her helping her sign, leaving everything to him, and not the other kid. So a lot of attorneys are a little bit nervous about, a lot of estate attorneys, I should say, are very nervous about adopting those sort of things, just from a place of ethics. But we'll see.
Okay.
It will be a different landscape, I'm certain, within the next, call it 5 years.
So so based on the example that you've just given, someone watching over, I guess the solution to that is actually having to sign physically present, but digitally. So I
Yeah.
know I've seen these like pads where you actually come and sign on the pad in front of, because actually, technically speaking, it doesn't change from a wet signature to a digital
Yeah.
signature, uh, but it needs to be, well, digital. And I guess digital, the advantages, you can store it in a vault on a
Mm-hmm.
cloud,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, where nobody can tamper, and whoever does, when and how, etc. So I guess I'd even say and preach that from a perspective of digitalization of the law industry, it would be actually way better to do it this way.
Yeah.
Don't remove the physical contact, of it, but instead of having reams of paper, you're doing the exact same thing, but on an electronic device in front of
Mm-hmm.
a lawyer who's a sworn. So I guess that's something that would need to be marketed and preached
Yeah.
in, well, across all states, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would guarantee that, you know, within a couple years, few years, whatever it will, that will probably be the norm. And the first time that I get to do it, I'll be like, oh, you remember when I talked about that on that podcast? It's just not the norm now, right? But it's
Yeah.
definitely coming without a doubt.
Okay, so we need to position ourselves to be able to do that, because that's what we do. The creating of digital ecosystems, going from the CRM to the website socials, the marketing, tying it all in together, and just, yeah, the automations is what we're always preaching, because it does take a lot of time. It
Oh my,
does free time. So
yeah,
I can have back-to-back meetings in a day, call after call, and at the end of every call, as I hang up, there's an automated email that goes out saying, "Hey, thanks for the call. This is the recap transcript of the call. Um, let's set a date for the next meeting for the onboarding," for example.
yeah,
And
yeah,
literally that's, and keep it really simple, because when
yeah,
you've got your really simple automations, it's just like, it makes such a difference,
yeah, yeah. Have you heard it? You've
and you
heard of
can
this.
scale it.
You've heard of the saying KISS, right? KISS.
Yep, keep it simple, stupid.
Yep, it's one of my favorite sayings because if you imagine my brain is trained from law school and the bar exam to make everything more complicated than it really needs to be. And so I am constantly like, there's this battle of like, but what if this, and then this, and then this, and this, and then this other side of my brain is like, keep it freaking simple, stupid, Jenny. Like, just stop. It's one of my
I guess
favorite
you're trained to
things.
be the devil's advocate, which is to complicate things. What if, what if, what if, what if?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, that's why I
Yeah.
need to have the routine of the same breakfast and lunch every day to save my
No.
brain.
No, but it does make sense. But I mean, it's it would be amazing to see that the adoption of tech of tech in the legal system literally could, I guess, help so many more people
Oh my goodness, yes.
have less, like, unburden the administration.
Yep, yep,
It would speed up all processes because it's all electronic. You can verify it. You can. It would just make sense. And I'm
yeah.
surprised that there's no one in law tech, I guess.
There are, and I think that's why there's been more of a push to
Okay.
like force my industry into the current times. Yeah.
Okay. So Indiana is not there yet.
Oh, we're usually one of the last for everything. We are. We really are. It's I don't know. I guess you could say glass half full. You could, we tend to be the last, so I guess let everyone else work out the kinks and then we'll adopt it. Yeah, but we tend to always be one of the last at everything.
Okay. And then when it comes to practicing, well, I guess estate and elder law, are you limited to practicing in Indiana, or can you practice across the US,
Mm-mm. Just
internationally, or just Indiana?
Just Indiana, they really, really put the hammer down on lawyers. You have to get licensed. Like it's not as easy. Like when you see, think like financial advisors that have licenses in multiple states or any other kind of profession. It's not that easy for lawyers. They have again kind of transformed the bar exam to they allow a bar exam now. It's called the uniform bar exam, where if you score high enough, you can practice in different states. I'm old enough that that wasn't even around. So to get licensed, you'd have to take the bar exam, and so I am not taking the bar exam more than I have to, and so yeah, just Indiana. But I belong to a couple of really awesome networks of estate and elder law attorneys that I constantly have people on X that will message me and say, Jenny, do you have someone like you in, this state or this place? And I usually can pull, referrals and names for individuals, but yeah, I'm just Indiana, mainly because they didn't make it easy on when we took the bar exam back in the day.
Okay. Next is successes, highlights of your journey as an attorney
Hmm.
in estate law and elder law.
Um, I would so I don't know if I'm allowed to make my own thing here, but when I was kind of previewing things,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna kind of combo this with lessons learned, um, a little bit because, you
Yes.
know, my journey has been really, really interesting in terms of, how I mentioned earlier that I started at a law firm after college, and
Mhm.
it's this law firm that I now own. And I started back then, and I was just, kind of a support team member, just trying to figure out if I wanted to stay in the legal industry. And then I went to law school while I was working full time at this law firm. And then, which was wild. I don't really know how I did it, but I did. I worked full time and went to law school. And then after law school, passed the bar exam, and that's about when the founder of the firm was ready to retire. She put her blood, sweat, and tears into getting the office off the ground, and she just kind of burned herself out. And thankfully, I was there to, recent recent bar exam pass, and I could. A lot of times, a lot of states also, you cannot own a law firm without being an attorney. And so, just right when she was starting to fade out, I was just coming in. And so that is when my husband wasn't even at the firm at the time. That's when she approached me and was like, "Do you want to buy this place?" And I was like, "What?"
What?
And I,
Oh
I
wow.
went, yeah, I went home to my then fiance. We weren't even married yet. My then fiance, and was like, so she wants us to buy the place if we can. So, super long story short, that's when my husband joined the firm. We ended up buying the firm. We are now the sole owners, just him and I. That was about, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. But, when I think of my successes and I think of my lessons learned, I am so thankful for the journey I took, because I have sat in every single one of my employees' seats. I have done their job. I I can just speak to their workload in their day-to-day more than anyone can, because most attorneys come out and they just go straight to lawyering. Where I've sat at the front desk. I have sat, being the first on the phones. I have been the paralegal behind the scenes. I have done it all, which is which really plays well for owning the firm, because they can't pull fast ones on me because I've sat in their seats. I know their workloads, and I know what's too much, and I know
Okay.
what's not enough. And it's just a really interesting perspective that not a lot of, especially business owners, have. They often don't have the experience at sitting in everyone's seats.
Okay. It makes sense. It does make
Mhm.
sense. So where are you going now with all of this? I know you want to open new offices, but
Mhm.
what's the what's the cadence? What are you looking at strategically speaking for the firm as a whole? Are you going to diversify in different types of law and hire the appropriate lawyers to cover all areas of law?
So, what's next for us is, about a year ago, we started working with the strategic coach, because something that we realized really quickly was, we're so in the grind of things that it's hard for us to like pop our head up. And she always says, raise your gaze, like pop your head up and just look out, like what's going on, where are you trying to get to next. And that's really hard for us to do when we are in the day-to-day grind. And so we started working with a strategic coach about a year ago. She helps us pop our head out, pop our head up, raise our gaze, look ahead. So, our kind of like I referenced earlier, our main thing that we are doing is growing. We have a very specific goal to grow. And what I've told so many people is I think that's what a lot of people, that's what a lot of business owners in particular will say. They'll say, I want to grow, I want to grow, but then they fail to put action behind their words. And whatever that means for them, and whatever they need to do to grow, they'll walk the walk, but they won't, I should say, they'll walk the walk, but not talk the talk. And oh no, flip that. They'll talk the talk and not walk the walk. There we go. That they won't put action behind their words. And so that is something we are very, very intentionally doing with that strategic coach, is, identifying where are our next offices, where do we want to focus, on in terms of marketing strategies and things like that. We have absolutely no goal to expand our practice areas. We like to stay in our lane and do it really damn well. And so I think the more you get outside of your normal lane, the more you're in territory that, you're not going to do it at A+. So as of where we sit today, that we are going to stick in the estate and elder law space and just likely grow the firm through establishing those office locations kind of throughout the state.
That's awesome. So, I mean, what's really from my observation, what's really really nice to see and refreshing is the fact that you're adopting tech, you're forward thinking for marketing, and you're literally behaving like an entrepreneur and not like a lawyer in
Yeah.
terms of the strategic growth of your firm. And this is what, the founders and builders roller coaster journeys is all about, the ups and downs, and what are you doing about it, how are you coping with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on your growth, and if there's a way of, sounding the trumpet on what you guys are doing, that, we're going to be more than delighted to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Fun facts.
Let's do it.
Time spent on the phone screens, non-work related.
It's probably embarrassingly too much, but I'm sure you've seen me posting about this on X. I'm a massive college basketball fan. And so right
Okay.
now is March Madness going on, and I am probably staring at my phone significantly more right now than I usually do. So between you asking that right now because it's college basketball time, but also I really enjoy, I mean, it's how you and I got connected, was, through
Indeed.
X. I really enjoy, I consider myself a lifetime learner, a lifelong learner. And so I really enjoy just kind of scrolling and, seeing what people are saying, sharing resources, that sort of thing. So yeah, I spend way too much on my phone for non-work, and I should be embarrassed, but I'll own it.
Cool. Bucket list item to tick off in 2024.
Oh, 2024. I was thinking 2025. Oh my goodness. 2024.
This
A
year.
bucket list item. That's a tough one. So, I'll go with we are trying to get the office in a place to take a month-long sabbatical, to get our office to a place where my husband and I can take a step back, have people leading the firm, leading the team, taking care of clients, all the things, and have us be able to take a month off. And we're trying to plan for it and see if we can check it off to do it in 2024. I hope we can. But yeah, that's something we're secretly working on.
Okay. So that month sabbatical, will that be a month every year that you're going to take?
I would love that. That's something that we have talked about, and what we've kind of been from a 2024 standpoint, look at it as like a test run of, what have we forgotten to address? Like, where are the, just the little things that we need to nip in the butt for next time. So yeah, I'd love to do it once a year. That'd be awesome.
So if you're going to take a month off sabbatical, what are you going to do with that time? Are you going to travel?
Well, I would love to travel. It's hard for us to get away because of the darn cows. Um, Especially because we're up to about probably 20 head or something like that. And they have calves not all the time, but kind of spread out. And we'd like to be home when they have
Okay.
calves in case they have trouble. So I would love to take the whole month traveling, but my husband probably would answer that differently.
Okay. Well, maybe not the whole month, but take a good 10 days
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
apply what you do in your law firm to the farm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Next one, beach house holiday or mountain cabin getaway.
You've probably picked up on this theme already, but my husband and I are literal polar opposites. I would say beach house holiday. Justin would say mountain cabin getaway. He would love to just go out west, like Montana or something, and go hole up in a cabin where I'm like, let's go down south. My favorite vacation spot ever is Aruba. And I'm like, take
Okay.
me to Aruba all the time and let me drink my little fruity cocktails and I'll live the good life.
Awesome. All right. So, coffee or tea, and what kind?
Oh, I am a black coffee kind of girl. I just do black coffee. I don't do anything fancy with it. I actually don't even really like Starbucks because I just like black coffee. And I don't really like their black coffee. So give me a cup of like, I don't know, McDonald's black coffee or Dunkin' Donuts black coffee, and I'll be a happy girl.
Oh, home brew. Come on. You have to have it at home and then take it. Right. So, when celebrating a successful, I guess,
Something. Yep.
closing or signing of a new client, are you popping champagne, cutting a rug on the dance floor, or quite celebration in a restaurant with your partner?
Why can't you put an and there and do all three?
So you're the second person on the podcast to say that.
That's hilarious. In all seriousness, it would probably be the third one. I don't really like champagne. I would I know I don't, and I probably would like pull a muscle if I went to cut a rug on a dance floor. so we like to go to dinner. I would say go into a quiet dinner with my husband. That's what we do in real life. If something good happens, we are scheduling to go to a nice dinner somewhere.
Okay, good. And how's the food scene in Indiana?
The fruits?
The food scene.
The food. I thought the fruits.
Sorry,
Well, I
I need to articulate.
thankfully no, that's okay. I thankfully live fairly close. I mean, as much as I am in the rural, I mean, I'm looking out to a cornfield that well, it's more of a bean field, I think, this year. But um we actually live pretty close to the capital of Indiana, which is in
Okay.
Indianapolis. It's probably 45 minutes away. Really not far at all. So we actually have a pretty good, food scene at our back door. It's very different though. Like if you get too much further away, it's pretty small towns everywhere that have kind of hole in the wall restaurants, hole in the wall bars, which usually have really good greasy bar food. But if you want like a nice steak, we have really good places really close to us. So not a bad food scene for sure.
All right. So, next one. Comedy club night or TED Talk marathon for a fun evening out? What's your pick to unwind?
Oh, comedy club night and definitely rated R plus. The more like inappropriate the better. We One of the things my husband and I like to do is go on cruises, and a lot of cruises have comedy shows, and we never go to the comedy shows that are like PG-13. We're like boring. So we like
Yeah.
going to the comedy shows, and the more like the more that will kind of make you like stir in your seat, the better.
Okay, perfect. And the last fun one is sports. Where would you thrive? Single competitor, double sports, relay team, or team sport?
Whew. I feel like if you're on this podcast, I feel like most people probably say single competitor, so that's what I want to say. No?
No.
I trust myself and the abilities I put afford like more than anyone. So I'm inclined to say single competitor, but I also know I clearly have weaknesses. And so I'm torn between single competitor versus team sport because then with a team sport you can capitalize on people's strengths. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the team sport, but if it's a team
Okay.
sport, I'm probably the one like strategizing and like you need to do that one and you need to do that one and you need to do that one.
You've lost money. I was wrong. I was actually thinking relay team, where you're
Well,
using everyone's.
that's
Yeah.
kind of the
So I've
same as
lost
a team
money to my
sport.
wife.
The what?
Thanks. I think my wife. I lost. I bet, and I said that that's what you would be relay team.
I mean, it's
So
a
yeah.
relay team. Maybe I have
Great.
Maybe I have a little PTSD. I remember when I was in track in like middle school, and I'm little. I'm very petite. I'm like 5'2". I'm like little. And I remember I was on a relay team in middle school. And I think because I grew up in a really small town that if you're on the team, you just get shoved in events. Like the coach doesn't pick
Yeah.
like who's the best. They're just trying to fill holes. And so they would put me in
Hmm.
this relay team and I would get smoked because I'm little. I can't go fast. So maybe I have PTSD from getting smoked in a relay team in middle school.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, that's literally taking us up to the end. I think there's a couple of people on, uh, most likely from X, streaming in from X. Yeah, streaming in from X. I don't know if anybody's got any questions out there. If you do, please don't hesitate um, to write them down and ask them. And if not, we're going to put Jenny's contact details on the screen at the bottom. So follow her definitely on X. And Jenny's also got an awesome podcast that she records on her way from the farm to the office, which I find genius. So would you like to say something about that, Jenny, about your podcast?
Yeah,
Shameless
sure.
plug.
Shameless plug away. Yeah. It is called Legal Tea, TEA. And it is a podcast. Actually, someone just asked me on X this morning how I got or why I started the podcast. And what I always tell people is so many people used to say that I should write a book because I would share like these crazy, client stories or whatever. And they're like, you should write a book. And I'm like, I'm not that patient. I don't have the patience to sit down and write a book, but I can talk until I'm blue in the face. And so that's how the podcast was born, was giving me a creative outlet to share things that are in my estate and elder law space, whether they are real life client stories. I clearly use fake names, but they're real stories. And then I also talk a lot about like celebrity estate planning. Celebrities are the worst about estate planning. And so
Yeah,
yeah, so Legal Tea podcast. It's just a fun way to learn some stuff about the estate and elder law world.
fantastic. So there's a ticker at the bottom of the screen for everyone who's looking. You can take note of the X handles of Legal Tea Podcast and Indiana Estate Law handles. And Jenny's the one behind them. So please do reach out. And that brings us to the end of our Friday podcast.
Woohoo! Happy Friday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jenny, for your time. It was a pleasure as usual. My regards to your husband and to Rosie and Charlotte. By the way, what happens to them? Are they for, this is a terrible thing I'm going to say, for
Do it.
beef or for dairy?
They're
Or
beef.
it's
They are
beef?
beef. Yep. They are beef. I usually preface anytime I talk about them, I'm always like, you're not a vegetarian, are you? Because they're beef. Yes. Yeah. But most of the ones out there are girls. So you usually keep the
Okay.
girls because they reproduce, and then the boys are usually the ones that go bye-bye, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. I have a particular interest for Charlotte's rump. Um,
They always get out when my husband is not home, and it has happened more than once. It has happened multiple times that they will get out, and I'm the chaotic one that I'm like going out there flailing in my, in my work outfit like a dress and heels, trying to get these stupid cows back in the pasture. So yeah.
I hope your husband is listening, and we'd like to see a short clip, video clip of that happening. You in your
Yes.
legal attire and heels running
Yep.
after Charlotte in the fields.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I actually had texted him one of the last times one got out, and I was like, I think I just played the game of tag with one of the cows because it was not a good sight.
Right. Fantastic. Right. Your day is starting. My day is ending.
Have
It's
an
been fabulous as
awesome
always, Jenny.
weekend. Have an awesome weekend.
Thank you. And you too. And then we'll catch up on X.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you guys very much for having me on. It was super fun. Super fun.
It was a pleasure. Okay.
All
Cheers,
right.
Jenny. Take
Bye
care.
bye. Bye bye.